Hi, welcome back to Book Buzz. We're the Beebe librarians from the reference department, and we're here to talk about books. With me today is Jeff Clapes, the head of our reference department, and this is Beth Radcliffe, who is also one of our reference librarians, and she does home delivery. My name is Leanne Ellis, and I'm a Reader's Advisory Librarian as well as a reference librarian. And we are just going to start talking about books, which is one of the things we like to do very, very much. So, Jeff, supposedly I've heard that you have a read-alike for Louise Penny.
And you heard from.
From you.
Well, yeah, it was fun because I watched the episode that you guys did where you talked for like endlessly about Louise Penny.
It
which
was
is not
almost
hard.
endless, yeah.
And of course, I love Louise Penny too, but yeah, it's hard to find a good read-alike for her because there's various reasons why people might like her. And I'm hard because I'm actually not much of a mystery reader. I like mysteries if they have a very strong sense of place. Yeah. And if they do really well with character, which obviously Louise Penny does really well. So I've enjoyed hers a lot, but I find that there's not too many authors out there who do both of those things well for me. Mm-hmm. Or they do, but there's still not enough like her to really feel like a good read-alike. But the one I would suggest, and I just read his new one, is Martin Walker, who does a series based on the character called Bruno, Chief of Police, and that's the name of the first book. Mm. I don't think it's quite as crucial to read them in order as it would be for the Penny, but I think you'd miss a lot.
Would you say read the first one, though?
Yes, and I think unlike Louise Penny, I think it takes her a couple of books to kind of really
hit her stride and
find her voice, whereas I think his actually are much more consistent throughout. I think he really hits the ground running with the first one. Bruno is a local chief of police in a small town called Saint-Denis in the Dordogne region of France, which is kind of in the center. It's the part of France that's into duck and foie gras and mushrooms and food and all that kind of stuff, red wine. It's not near the ocean. It's a very sort of dark, forested part of the country. It's also a part of the country where there's a lot of prehistoric caves. So those figure in some of the in the plots. So the thing that I think I would say is very similar to Louise Penny is two things. One is the place. He does place really well. It's a small town that has a constellation of secondary characters that are really well drawn and that develop over time, just like Penny does. The central character, Bruno, is kind of a gamache. He's different, but he's similar enough that I think that if gamache appeals to you, I think Bruno would have a similar appeal. He's a little bit younger.
I thought you were saying, you're going to say he's a mensch, he's a gamensch.
No. No, he's not.
He is.
The other thing that I think is very similar is the way he takes a mystery. Obviously there's a murder mystery in each one. It usually starts with a dead body somewhere, or murder, something like that. But he always weaves it into a larger context, and Penny does that too. So the murders end up having to deal with issues like French politics or terrorism or immigration or all kinds of things like that. Things that put the small town in that larger context. Police corruption is another one that comes into it that Louise Penny does. I like how both of the authors really delve into the way the machinery of police and investigation at the different levels of government work.
The procedural.
Because it's very different from the United States. They have different levels of policing and investigating and authority levels and how they interact. So you learn a lot about how, with Penny, you learn how Canada does it, and in the Walkers you learn how the French system works. And there's a lot of turf wars between the local police and the regional police and the national security divisions and so forth. So I think he does a really good job of kind of bringing that in. But at the base of it, there's a small community of people, and those characters you grow like in the Penny. You grow to love those characters and you read the next book because you want to know what happens to them. And he doesn't pull any punches the same way she doesn't. You get used to main characters, and just like in real life, stuff happens to them.
See, that's the reason I would read them in order too, because that
Yeah,
stuff.
Yeah.
like,
I think you would
Yeah.
miss a little bit of that if you didn't.
Is there the same sort of interest in food and the same humor?
Lots of food. There's a lot of food and a good mix of humor. There's a dog. There's no duck. But they eat the ducks in this one instead. But yeah, there's a lot of food.
Don't tell Ruth.
It's a part of France that actually has a lot of Brits in it. And actually, the Walker is himself a British native who now lives in France.
Oh, I was wondering about that.
So
Yeah.
he actually is describing the area very well because he lives it. And as someone who's traveled there, he does a really good job of giving you the flavor of what the region is like.
And the food.
And the food. Yeah, I just really, I think it's interesting how he takes characters that you grow to like, and like real people, they may get married and move away, they may die, they may, things happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's good things, sometimes it's bad things. They may take another job, so there's a few gut punches in there because it's not always.
And you
Yes.
get attached.
Yeah.
You
You
get
get
attached
attached.
to
It's not
characters.
always.
Yeah.
These aren't cozies.
Right.
There's always a little bit of intensity in there, but at the same time, there's that family feeling of what it's like to be in a small town.
And that part of it, not so much the characters of a small town, but I was thinking that the Camilleri, the Andrea
Yes.
Andrea,
Camilleri,
yes.
Yep.
his name just dropped.
Andrea.
No, but the Montalbano.
Montalbano.
the
Yes,
Inspector
Inspector
Montalbano.
The inspector, yeah.
Because that takes place in Sicily. He loves food. It's Italian food in this case, right? It's not necessarily limited to a small town, but it is limited to Sicily, which is also a small community. And I don't think he has quite the growth of Penny's characters.
I've only read a couple of those, and there are definitely some similarities. I think it would
Yeah.
be worth anybody trying them, but there's something that's not quite the same.
Yeah, I
Even
think it's
Cotterill,
the-
Colin Cotterill, who
Yeah,
you know I love,
yeah.
he writes the ones about the series about Laos in the 1970s. I love that series, but and he also has a great.
Yeah, he's got a great sense of humor.
The universe of characters is just wonderful, and they're funny
Yeah,
and they're weird,
yeah.
and they, you get to know them over the series of books, but it's still not the same.
Yeah,
it's
no,
it's a different atmosphere.
I think the similarity is that they
these.
both love food. There's a atmospheric and landscape that they do so well at,
But they're different.
and police procedural.
Yeah.
But they do have
And
differences.
and of course both Penny and Walker, it's French, it's French Canadian,
Yeah.
and
Right.
France,
Right.
but
so you still get your croissants.
there's still a Gallic
Right.
feel to both of them that's different from some other cultures where you might have a series. So yeah, I really like this latest one deals with there's a woman's body is found at there's a ruined castle in the village, and a woman's body is found, and they discovered that she's a protester, and who is she connected with, and as is the case with all of his stories, the connections end up spiraling out to something much bigger than just the town. So it's they're all I just love them, and I think the nice thing is they tend to come out mid-year from when Louise Penny writes her
Right,
books.
so you have- right.
So I have something to tide me
Right,
over.
so you have something to
until-
tide you over, exactly. And I haven't read any of them, and I've sort of been waiting till I can sort of start from the beginning and really spend some time with them.
Charlotte Thompson actually is the one who started me on
really?
them. She
Oh.
gave me the first one a number of years ago because she thought I'd like it.
Yeah.
And so he's had, I think this is probably the 10th one?
10th
maybe?
makes sense.
Give
yeah,
or,
10,
give or
11,
take, somewhere
like
around
that.
there. Yeah.
Good. Well, actually, because you're talking about procedurals, and this is a good segue, and I won't talk long about this particular book because he sells himself, and it's Michael Connelly's Two Kinds of Truth, which is a Harry Bosch book. It's a series. I think it's like number 22 at this point. And one of the reasons I want to point it out is, first of all, I read him totally for pleasure. He is not part of what I do as a librarian trying to connect readers to books. I have a relationship with Harry Bosch, and that's my relationship that I enjoy.
This is a family show.
Yeah,
So.
that's true. That's true. And we must remember this at all times. But what I love about him is the procedural aspect of it. He is one of the best writers out right now who take you from the beginning of the crime to the end of it and does a really good job of documenting it, but also moves the story along. There's a lot of dialogue. He takes it, step by step, but he does it in a way where you don't think to yourself, oh, all right, now they're going to go to XYZ. He usually does it in a way that really is a good story.
And from my reading of it, he also keeps the policing up to date. Like now there are computers, there's cell phones, there's databases.
And you've seen him evolve from someone who's older, and this one he's been retired for 3 years. He's in his 60s.
Yeah.
He is not someone who loves his cell phone. In fact, he relies a lot on his daughter to give him tips, and maybe he has to go to other people to do database searching, and it's great because it's time relevant. The other thing I love about him is that he is capable of doing that, the procedural in an expert way, moving the story along, and he does the inner life of his characters in a way that make you care about Harry and everybody else. And without giving away too much, there are certain people from his past that sort of come back in a way that was both delightful and horrifying. And I really enjoyed this book a great deal. So I would just say that if you're thinking, oh, he's cranking him out, he doesn't. He doesn't phone these in. He does a really good job, and this was a delight for me. And the two kinds of truth are about what you consider to be your gut reaction. What is the truth that you know
timely.
deep in your heart, deep in your soul, deep in your tummy? And what is the truth that people are telling you it is? And a lot of times, as he said, it could be your president, it could be a politician or someone else. So it's very interesting how he writes that. So that was so much fun for me. Anyway, but I understand that you've been reading a little bit outside your comfort zone, haven't you? Talking about...
I've been reading a lot of mysteries and thrillers. The latest one I read was Dead Woman Walking by Sharon Bolton. And this is a thriller, so it's not a mystery like Penny's, but it's not like Connolly either. And I love the premise because the premise starts out with the main character taking her sister, who's a Carmelite nun, cloistered Carmelite nun, but she gets to come out of the nunnery to go on a balloon trip. And in the middle of this balloon hunt, where they're seeing this beautiful vistas of northern England, right near the border of Scotland, it's desolate, it's lonely, it's beautiful, they see a murder on the ground happening as they're up there.
Not just the body, but
not just the body, it's happening.
So they're witnesses.
Oh.
They're witnesses. And the balloon gets close enough that he can see them and they can see him, and he's got a rifle.
That must be really irritating to be killing someone and having. What are the chances?
Today, of all days, the balloon had come. So he shoots the balloon, and they have to be on the run, the survivors of the balloon crash. And
so the
it's
balloon
just
comes down.
Yes, well, he has a rifle, so and he doesn't want them surviving. So the main character is on the run from him, and he's got a little motorbike.
A nun on the run.
Well, no, it's her sister.
Oh, okay.
No, without giving too much away. So it's really a chase.
It's a chase, so it's very much fast-paced, and it's a lot of twists and turns. It's a fun ride.
What did you think of her main character, the one who's being chased?
I liked her. I thought she did a really good job of it. And
Have you read it?
No, I haven't read this one. I'm a big fan of the writer, though.
She's a good, strong woman.
I know her Lacey Flint series, and she wrote that under S.J. Bolton, and I loved Lacey Flint. It's just that she tends to take a female character and make them very different than what you expect them to be.
Well, she's running at first, so that's a stereotypical, but she doesn't run for the whole thing, and she's very smart and is good at hiding.
Right, so she's someone who uses her brains, but you're right, and that's the thing with, especially romantic suspense. A lot of times the female character is running from someone, and someone has to save her. More modern versions of this is that they learn how to save themselves.
Yeah, and
so is this a standalone,
it's not a romance, and it is a standalone.
Yeah.
It's definitely, and there is graphic violence in it.
Good to know.
Yeah,
Do you think that
but no sex.
the policeman in it is a
Yes.
major role, right? That's what I
Yes.
remember another reader
Yes.
telling me.
In fact, it's 3 points of view. So it's the main character, and it's the killer, and it's a policeman, Inspector
Oh, it doesn't look like
Mondalvo,
it.
I
Yeah.
think it's his
Okay.
name. So it's the three of them coming at this story and their take on it, which is really, it's interesting. So it does switch viewpoints if you're okay with that.
Yeah. Oh, good. But she does a good job doing that.
She
I
does
like
a very
stuff like
good job
that.
doing
I do
that.
too. I
Yeah.
think of the